Daniel Adebayo had always believed his life was ordinary. At 29, he lived alone in a quiet apartment in Ajah, Lagos, worked remotely as a graphic designer, and spent most evenings speaking with his girlfriend, Amara Okafor, about the future they hoped to build together. His life was simple, peaceful, and predictable. But before the story gets even darker, take a moment to comment on the country you're watching from. And after the story ends, let me know your thoughts about this story in the comments so we can create more suspenseful stories like this. Until the morning, everything collapsed. It began with a robbery in Lekki Phase 1. Just after midnight, armed men stormed a luxury jewelry store during a heavy rainstorm. The operation lasted less than 10 minutes. By the time police arrived, millions of naira worth of jewelry had disappeared. But the shocking part was not the robbery itself. It was the face captured on the CCTV footage. The next morning, Daniel was sleeping when loud banging shook his apartment door. "Open up, police!" Before he could fully understand what was happening, armed officers flooded his apartment. His neighbors gathered outside as Inspector Tunde Balogun stepped forward, holding a photograph. "You are under arrest for armed robbery." Daniel stared at the image in disbelief. The man in the photograph had his exact face, same beard, same eyes, same haircut, same everything. "This is not me," Daniel whispered. Nobody listened. At the station in Ikeja, Inspector Balogun placed the CCTV footage on a monitor in front of him. Daniel watched silently as the robber removed his hood inside the jewelry store. Daniel's blood turned cold. It was like staring into a mirror. The same face looked back at him, but the eyes were different, colder, darker, dangerous. For the first time in his life, Daniel became afraid of his own reflection. Because the evidence against him was incomplete, the police temporarily released him while investigations continued. But by then, the damage had already spread across Lagos. His face flooded social media. "Lekki jewelry thief arrested." People whispered whenever he walked past. Clients stopped calling. Even Amara began to look at him differently. "I want to believe you," she said quietly one night inside his apartment. "But every time I close my eyes, I see that video." Daniel felt his heart breaking. Then things became worse. A few days later, while walking through crowded Yaba market, searching for answers, a frightened man suddenly grabbed his shirt. "David," the man shouted angrily, "where is my money?" Daniel froze. "My name is Daniel." The stranger slowly stepped back, confusion filling his face. "You people even sound alike." That was the first time Daniel heard the name David. From that moment, he became obsessed with discovering the truth. He searched through old family records, hospital documents, and anything connected to his childhood. But pieces of his past seemed missing. Entire records had disappeared. Then he found an old address connected to a woman named Mama Sade. The elderly woman lived alone in a fading house in Surulere. The moment she opened the door and saw Daniel's face, fear filled her eyes. "You finally came," she whispered. Inside the dimly lit room, Daniel listened as Mama Sade revealed the secret his family had buried for decades. He was not born alone. Daniel had an identical twin brother. During their infancy, their father became involved with dangerous criminals. After a violent confrontation that led to their mother's death, the twins were separated for protection. One child disappeared, the other survived. Daniel struggled to breathe. "My brother is alive." Mama Sade lowered her head slowly. "Yes, his name is David." That night, Daniel drove through Lagos, unable to think clearly. Rain poured heavily across Third Mainland Bridge as traffic crawled slowly forward. Then he saw him. Inside a nearby car sat a man with his exact face, David. Their eyes locked. Daniel felt reality shatter around him. David smiled slightly before speeding away into the rain. From that moment, Daniel understood the truth. Someone had been watching him for years. Days passed, and David's attacks became more personal. More crimes were committed using Daniel's identity. Police surveillance intensified. Inspector Balogun began suspecting Daniel might secretly be working with the criminal. Daniel's life turned into a nightmare. Then Amara disappeared. Daniel received a text message containing a warehouse address in Apapa. Come alone if you want her alive. When Daniel arrived at the abandoned warehouse that night, thunder shook the sky above Lagos. Rainwater leaked through the broken roof as he slowly stepped into the darkness. And there he was, David, standing face to face with the brother he had never known. For several seconds, neither man spoke. Two identical faces stared at each other like reflections from different worlds. You had a beautiful life, David finally said. Daniel clenched his fists. You destroyed everything. David laughed bitterly. You think I had a choice? While you were growing up safe and loved, I was surviving on the streets. Daniel could see the pain hidden beneath David's cold expression. All these years, David continued, I watched you from a distance. Your job, your happiness, your relationship, everything that should have been mine. Amara sat tied to a chair nearby, terrified. Before Daniel could respond, Collins emerged from the shadows holding a gun. The criminal operation had gone wrong, and Collins no longer trusted either brother. You both know too much now, he growled. The gunfire exploded suddenly. Chaos filled the warehouse. Daniel pulled Amara to safety as bullets tore through the darkness. Police siren echoed outside. Inspector Balogun, an armed officer, stormed the building. Then Collins aimed directly at Daniel. Everything happened in seconds. David stepped forward. The gunshot echoed violently. Daniel caught his brother as he collapsed onto the wet concrete floor. Blood spread across David's chest, while rain poured through the broken roof above them. For the first time since meeting him, Daniel saw no anger in David's eyes, only sadness. At least, David whispered weakly, somebody finally knows I existed. Daniel's eyes filled with tears. You're my brother? David gave a faint smile before his body went still. The rain continued falling as Daniel held him in silence. Weeks later, Daniel's name was cleared. The truth about David's crimes became public, and life slowly began returning to normal. Amara stayed beside him through the painful recovery, though the memory of David never truly left his mind. One quiet evening, Daniel sat alone in his apartment when his phone vibrated. Unknown number. He opened the message slowly. You never really knew your brother. Attached was a photograph. Daniel's heart nearly stopped. In the image, David stood beside another man, a man with the exact same face. The screen went black. Daniel woke up from sleep and said it was a dream. Sometimes the truth we fear most is not about strangers, but the secrets hidden within our own lives. This story teaches us that jealousy, pain, and a difficult past can turn people into something dangerous, while identity and family secrets can destroy lives when buried for too long. It also reminds us that not everyone fighting darkness was born evil. Some were simply abandoned by life. In the end, Daniel learned that peace can disappear in a moment, and some truths are far more terrifying than lies.